Strut Nation, Teal Nation, welcome to this episode of The Strut. We've got Info Joe, we've got Travis TD Danley, and we're very excited to bring in Coach Kevin Schnall from our baseball program. Coach Schnall, by way of introduction, you served as the acting head coach in 2020 when Coach Gilmore was out, but before that, you've been named one of the top 15 premier assistant coaches in 2018, top 10 assistant coaches in 2017 by Baseball America, same honor in 2012. You were part of the 2016 championship team, a part of 15 NCAA Division I regional appearances, 3 Division I super regionals. The list goes on and on. As a player, you were the 1999 Big South Player of the Year, finalist for the Rotary Smith National Player of the Year Award, and in 99 also drafted by the Cincinnati Reds. Strut Nation, Teal Nation, welcome Coach Kevin Schnall to the broadcast.
Thank you very much. It's amazing to think that this year I'm embarking on my 24th year as a college baseball coach. I'm kind of becoming that old guy. 21, we've been very lucky, 21 of those years here at Coastal. So I've been with Coach Gilmore now for 21 years as a coach, and I played for him for 2 years, so 23 total years. It's amazing that it's gone by this quickly.
A lot has changed
can
too,
fly,
man.
for sure.
I was gonna say a lot has changed.
And,
man, we just think about where you're sitting at right now, in the offices and the stadium that you're sitting at right now, compared to we reminisced a little bit, as we'll do here, but with Coach Gilmore, Chili, and Joe know. Baseball operations this time about 25 years ago was in a single wide mobile home out there beyond left field across the road from the tennis courts. So we've come a long way from that to where we are now.
Oh, yeah, they were the days. And then we actually moved to another one behind it, which was like an upgrade, which was very nice. And then we moved over to the football building. So we've been around, and obviously now we're over here at the stadium down the third base line, overlooking the field. So we're pretty lucky. We've got a pretty good view, and we've got it pretty good over here now.
So, Coach, a lot's been written about the team so far, as far as like preseason polls, all that kind of stuff by different publications. But I just want to come to you with this question, just to kick it off. As a coaching staff, especially you, since we've got you here, how are you feeling about the season so far? How's practice looking? How are you feeling going into the season right now?
We're feeling good. I mean, what are we? We're 10 days away from, or 9 days now away from opening day, and it's probably a little bit coach speak, but I mean, the focus is really trying to stay diligent in our one-day plan. And if we maintain that mentality, we'll absolutely be ready on the 16th for opening day. And opening weekends is going to be a challenge. We got George Mason, Indiana, Duke. All three are regional teams from last year. And if anything, we've looked at George Mason. That's the only team we've looked at this point. And they've returned a lot of people from last year's regional team. They have a really good pitching staff. They've got a lot of position players back. They stole a lot of bases last year. They do a lot of things offensively that can create some issues. So it's not going to be easy. It's going to be a big challenge. That said, we've got a good team, and I'm not going to hide behind those expectations. We're ranked inside the top 25 in every major, poll, and deservingly so. I mean, 7 of our 9 position players from last year are back. And we deserve that recognition. They deserve that recognition. So, we also added some really nice pieces that are going to be really good players. So it's an exciting year, and we should be, where we're at right now. Our team has worked extremely hard.
Joe, do you have a question?
No, I was going to let you go ahead.
I was going to say, so I was looking at the 3 teams. You got George Mason, Duke, and Indiana coming up this weekend. All 3 regional teams, all 3 teams bring back an expectation to get back to the postseason, as we do here. And it's a pretty special year. Coach Gilmore's last year, we touched on that with him in the last podcast. But also, too, it's a pretty special year because we have a lot of firsts, even with a program that has been successful that we have. We got NIL baseball collector for the first time. We've got coaches last year with Coastal. We've got high expectations where we're ranked the top 25. We're playing teams like Indiana, Duke, and George Mason. Now, I was trying to look it up just now, but if I remember correctly, I know that Duke is ranked, Indiana and George Mason, they finished last year in the RPI top 100, top 75. So you're already starting off with those 3 teams. There's looking down the schedule, Coach, there's not a weekend in there, right? There may be some folks that are unfamiliar with brands that are on our schedule, right? But there's a reason why we play those teams. One, because they're early season Northeast, Midwest teams, and they're looking for, sunshine states to play baseball in. But if historically what you and Coach Gilmore have done from a schedule perspective, you've put a fantastic schedule together this year with folks like Michigan coming down and playing Illinois. Of course, we got our midweeks versus the North Carolinas, NC States, the Duke, or not Dukes, but excuse me, the UNCWs and the Clemsons. And in the Sun Belt in general, series at Southern Miss, home versus Louisiana. We have South Alabama, Troy, Apps and Improved Ball Club. I mean, this is one of those years where the Sun Belt could have another top 5 RPI conference year, and then our schedule could be another top 20, top 25 strength of schedule again. So what are you excited about? What are you looking forward to this opening weekend when you unleash these guys, like Coach Gilmore was talking about, to go out and have fun? What are you looking for from them?
Number one, I don't want to take any credit for our scheduling. I mean, that started with Matt Hogue years ago, and him and Gilly basically spearheaded that, and they've been very methodical and very intentional with how they do the scheduling, and really it's been genius. And it's put our program in position to host regionals because of the way that we schedule. And that's going to be a big step, big challenge moving forward with our scheduling to make sure that we are collaborating with Matt Hogue and making sure that we are staying the course with our schedule, because that's a big component of us maintaining a top 25 type program. With this team, what am I excited about? I mean, truth be told, is I'm excited to be in the dugout and watch a Derek Bender, who's an All-American type talent, day in and day out. Watch Caden Bodine, who's one of the premier catchers in the entire country, getting the front row seat to watch these guys compete and play day after day is pretty special. And then we've got some new faces that are going to be guys that are going to be major components of our team. I mean, just thinking out loud, I mean, we've got a junior college transfer who's going to slide in and play third. He's a tremendous player, Sam Ananachi. We've got a junior college arm from Potomac State, the same junior college I went to, Xander Meckley, who's got a really big arm. We're expecting big things out of him. So there's a good blend. I mean, between and then our freshman class, we've got 10 freshmen, just 4 off the top of my head. 4 arms: Cam Flukie, Oliver Ellison, a local left-hander, Hayden Johnson, and then Dom Carbone from New York. Those 4, 2 lefties and 2 righties, are 4 freshmen that in the first 2 weeks of our inter squads have really emerged to be major contributors this spring for us. So those guys are as good of freshmen that we've had. Now, again, it's a different story in 2 weeks when it's a different jersey over there. There's fans in the state, in the seats, and there's umpires and adversity sets in. But I can say the first 2 weekends that we've played, all 4 of those have responded in a really positive way. All 4 of them have emerged since the fall. Hayden Johnson was a little bit injured this fall, so we didn't even see him that much. But he's pitched very well, and he's got a very promising future. I mean, all 4 of them do, but that's just 4 off the top of my head. So there's a lot to be excited about, but there's a lot of unknowns too, just because there's no numbers to back it up.
Coach, you just mentioned a name that is going to be in the question that I want to pose to you and kind of get your thoughts on. You're a catcher, and we have had an outstanding run of catchers, through the years. I mean, we have been so strong at that position. Caden Bodine is a special player. He's the next in line, right? I mean, he's the next guy who is extremely special. What makes him the player that he is? And do you take a certain amount of pride, that being your position? Do you take a certain amount of pride, maybe a little bit more, like, these guys are my guys that you've developed through the years?
Obviously, yeah, very prideful in our catching, and our whole staff is. At the end of the day, our catching is the quarterback of our defense. So it's not just me. I mean, our whole staff is very demanding on our catchers. Caden Bodine specifically, I mean, I've said this numerous times. I mean, he's without question, the best total package catcher that I've ever coached. He's a switch hitter. He's extremely accurate thrower. He receives well. He's mobile. The biggest or the next step in his game is just continuing to control a pitching staff, demanding more out of a pitching staff. But he's extremely bright. He's got a great demeanor. He's got an other-centered mindset. He's not a look at me guy. He goes about his business in a first class manner every day. He's a special talent, and as good as he was last year, expect a lot bigger things this year. I mean, he's a really good player. And then we have a freshman catcher this year. How many innings does he get? I don't know, but he's really trending in the right direction. And you look at a lot of catchers that we've had through the years, and I think of a Doc Doyle. I think of a Tucker Frawley. This kid is ahead of where they were walking in the door. And these guys are good catchers. I mean, both of them are top 10 rounders, Tucker Frawley and Doc Doyle. Bryce Eastep is strong. He's got strength in the bat. He's accurate. He receives the ball well. He's tough. And he's extremely hardworking. So, I mean, you're not going to see a lot of him this year because you have Bodine and you've got Bender, but he's going to get innings, and he's trending in the right direction to be that next guy. And obviously next year with Derek probably moving on to the professional ranks, Estep will be a next guy there to, be our number 2 next year. But, he's our third catcher. But I'm telling you right now, there's a lot of programs in the country that like to have him right now as their number 1.
And interesting you bring that up, Coach, is about the NIL piece. That's something, too, that has been an integral part and a mechanism to be able to retain some players. And I know we'll touch on that a little bit later. I know Tilly's got a question, but we always get a chance on our podcast. Time, talent, and treasure are the 3 T's that ultimately help a culture and or a community that supports a program, be it football, baseball, or a university. And thankfully, the Legacy 14 Collective was established and set up to where Bodine and Bender and a few others were part of their collective. We're going to have them on later this year, but that's the thing is, can't ever plug that, and along with the new NIL collective that the university is bringing on for a full platform approach to all athletics. To your point, is having the resources to be able to do that. And again, anytime I can plug that as a former player to our fans, Joe, Chili, the same way, we always want to do that. So that's how we can retain them, not only with great coaching and great assets and resources and facilities, but something like that. And but
there's no doubt, if you're passionate about coastal baseball and you have the means, we ask you to kindly donate to Legacy 14.
Sorry, one of the easiest ways is to order a beer, right, Coach?
Hey.
Oh, yeah. I don't even drink that much anymore, but every time I see a Legacy 14, I feel obligated.
Coach, we talked about a lot of players so far, about people we know about already, but who's somebody that nobody's talking about that may have a year that we get to know that player through the season?
That's a good question. Again, everybody knows Bender, everybody knows Bodine. Zach Beach is been here for a while now. I really think, everybody knows Graham Brown, and for some reason, Graham isn't getting the attention of a guy that hit 17 home runs.
Agreed.
Scored 70-plus runs, drove in 70-plus RBIs. Don't be surprised if he emerges to have a Player of the Year type year. He returned, and he has it could go like 2 ways, right? You got these 5th-year guys, and you get Graham Brown and Zach Beach to return. And, they can be a little disinterested, like, oh, how many times I'm going to go over this base running drill? How many times I'm going to go over, sack bunting technique? And these guys have been tremendous. Their leadership, they're all in. And Graham Brown, in a positive way, is walking around with a little bit of chip because of the lack of recognition that he's getting right now, and rightfully so. If you look at his numbers, his batting average wasn't probably where he wanted to be, but if you put your finger over his batting average and look at the rest of his stat line, you would say, I'll take that guy. I mean, I think it was 24 doubles, 17 home runs, 70 plus RBIs, 70 plus runs scored. So this guy's a run producer and a run scorer. And he plays a really good outfield. We're going to need him to step up and steal some more bases for us. But overall, like I expect him to step up. I've already mentioned Sam. Dean Mijos played some last year. Then he had a little hamstring issue. He's played well, since we've returned in January, and we've been playing him a little bit in center field. He's played well. Ty Barango, junior college shortstop from California, has played extremely well. This is as deep of an infield that we've ever had. We have 3 players on our team that can play shortstop and play shortstop at a high level. Our national championship team, we couldn't have said that. So our depth in the infield is as good as it's ever been. Ty Barango has had a very good January and early February, so he's coming out of the gates very, very hot. So there's a mix of guys that are going to be good. But like I said, I mean, there's 7 of our 9 guys are returning. I mean, Blake Barthel, I haven't even mentioned. I mean, this is a freshman All-American who's a professional left-handed hitter who does everything that we need him to do to be the best offensive player he can be. He's going to score a lot of runs. He's going to drive in runs. I mean, he had 7 home runs last year. I could see him hitting over 10 this year. He's just a well-rounded player, and he's sliding over to second this year. So I think that might help him offensively because he's a little bit more natural over at second versus at third where he was last year. So, I mean, we still have some question marks, like who's going to be our everyday left fielder, who essentially is going to take over and be our everyday center fielder. We have a transfer from Scranton, Corey Zientek, who's got tremendous tools. But he's kind of battled some injuries, and he's, again, there's a transition coming from Division III to Division I, and I mean he's going through that transition a little bit, but he's a very good athlete, and he's going to be in the mix when it's all said and done. It's just a matter of who's going to win the job.
I love hearing the fact that there's you talk about there's depth and there's versatility, there's excitement, there's energy, there's some guys with some chips on their shoulder. That mantra over your left shoulder, for those that can't see, or I know they watch us on YouTube, but that selfless, relentless mantra, that's something that's near and dear to coastal baseball culture and lore. Who's a guy right now that I know all of them have this attribute, because that's part of a character attribute that you and the rest of the staff and Coach Gilmore look for, but who's someone that is going to really probably grind some things out for us? That's going to just be a kid that's going to grind out, that, like you said, hasn't had his name brought to attention yet, but who's somebody by the end of the year, they're going to know his name and go, you know what? That kid's a real grinder. He's a Chanticleer man right there. Someone, I could just think of countless other Chanticleers from the years before the national championship to now that just become fan favorites just because not only their production, but they just grind, man. They just got dirt all over them every time they go on the field.
I mean, I can name a bunch of guys, but the first one that comes to my mind is Sam Ananacci. I mean, he's a non-chrome guy. He's not, look at me. He's just a good baseball player, really good defender, plays extremely hard, will do all the little things. He's fun to watch, and we're fortunate that he's in our dugout. I mean, he had a lot of choices last year when he was in junior college, and he selected Coastal Carolina because he felt how special this place was, and he selected Coastal Carolina over quote-unquote Power 5 programs. It came down to when he came here and visited, he realized this was the right fit for him and realized how special this place was. And he's really come a long way since he arrived in August. He's bigger, he's stronger, he's more outgoing, he's more comfortable in everything that he does. He's going to have a great year.
I think Joe or Chile may have had something, but
I was gonna let me unmute myself right there. Not so much a question, Coach, but just kind of your dad was great. I just got to tell you that. I mean,
Thank you.
he was just. I'd never met him until 2016 in Omaha. And I would run into him, and he really didn't know me from Adam's house cat. But I mean, he would he would hit me with the best stories. I mean, I had like 3 or 4 times when we were out there, and it was just fantastic. I loved him so much. And then I'd see him at the games every now and then, kind of intermittently after that. And he'd always point at me and go, "Joe Tasha." And I'd go, "Steve Schnall." And we just, I mean, it's just the funniest thing. I mean, growing up with him I mean, just knowing him and all where he coached and what he did. I mean, that just had to be a lot of fun.
Well, the truth is, I mean, he was a coach. He wasn't around that much. My mom was the backbone of our family. Now my dad was my little league coach, and when he was around, he was coaching us at all times. He's, I said a lot. He's the best coach I've ever seen. He's the influence that steered me into the coaching ranks. I'm the coach that I am today in a lot of ways because of him. I mean, he's the one who introduced me to, having attention to detail. I mean, his big thing was ZD, zero defects. Essentially, it's having attention to detail to everything that you do. He would have, he passed away last year before the year in December, and he would have been really proud of that team last year just because there were so many question marks last year. Nobody expected us to do what we did last year. Obviously, as a staff, we knew we were talented. We knew that there was a lot of really good players, but there was very little experience, very little numbers, if you will. Nick Lucky was the most experienced guy coming back. So, what we accomplished as a program and as a team last year was really special. And, he would have really liked to have watched that because that team was, in my opinion, was a lot of fun to watch. I mean, they didn't lose one weekend the entire regular season. I'll never forget, as a staff, we're sitting around and we're looking at our schedule and we're getting into our conference schedule. And it's like, oh my God, it was like 6 weekends in a row. It's like this gauntlet. And like, how are we going to compete right now, weekend, after weekend? And our arms we had a couple arm injuries and we did. And it was special. That was a really fun team. Unfortunately, we lost that, game 7 last year versus Duke, but that team accomplished a lot, and that experience should propel us this year in a lot of ways.
Yeah. The one thing I'm gonna miss is I loved it when he had his towel and a stopwatch, and he was going to time you. He was going to time your ass to first, because if you weren't hustling, you were going to hear it, right? Hey, you were going to hear it. And I always admired that and loved that about him. And also too, a lot of folks don't know, but he had some fantastic NFL relationships and experiences that I know that me being a former football guy, I mean, I feel like a kid sitting on, the first row of a bench at a little league stadium, just listening to him talk about some of the experiences he had with some of those NFL relationships and his involvement in college football. I mean, that, again, love baseball as much as I love football, but it was always amazing. He always had a great story. Always had a great story.
It's tough. I'm about to say this, but I actually, it's been over a year now. I actually miss his CPs that he would call them. He's a big acronym guy, but his coaching points. And I mean, I would get a text after every practice, and some of the stuff you just shake your head like, come on, like, but there was a lot of things that you said, you know what, he's right there, right? That comment is right. And then sometimes it was just like, not today, not after that game. Like, I don't, but I do miss those because they help me grow. They help me look in the mirror a lot and realize, you know what, he's right. That was my fault. Like, we didn't work on that as much as we needed to. And because of that, we didn't execute it at the level that we should have executed it. If I could tell you, Thanksgiving has been a little bit different without him there. Thanksgiving, he get on some rolls. You name it, politics, something. He get on some rolls. I've got some good videos, some secret videos taping him over Thanksgiving on some rolls. especially like he doesn't drink, but like over Thanksgiving, it's like, yeah, I'll take something, and like he'll have like 3 sips, and then it's just like, whoa, someone needs to drive him home.
Y'all always got to be good in the lips. Got to be good in the
Yeah,
lips. The late inning pressure situation.
Absolutely.
I heard that a million
Absolutely.
times out there in Omaha. It's hilarious.
You know what's
Oh,
great
man.
too is you watch those games. You know, I've got all the games, and you watch him, and he's like he's straight behind home plate, 3 seats up. It doesn't matter what game's on. He's got himself the premier seat. I think he's got our scout ticket seats or whatever, but somehow he's in the best seat. He always found the best seat, and that was pretty cool. I mean, he was, you know, that was a little bit of a rough year. You know, we faced a lot of adversity in 2015, 2016, and my kids after the LSU super regional, they were young at the time, but they elected, we don't want to go to Omaha. It was too hot at LSU. We don't want to go. So my wife and I were like, you know what? Let's take advantage of this. It's just going to be you and I, and you know, my dad's going to come out, and my mom flew down from New Jersey to spend a couple days with the kids. She didn't realize it was going to be, you know, 2+ weeks with the kids. But it was pretty cool. My dad was out in Omaha for that whole time. My brother flew out for the first 2 games, I believe it was, and you know, they got a chance to spend some time together out there. But it was cool. I mean, my dad was able to basically, you know, be a part of that whole run in Omaha, and I know that he really enjoyed it.
So I have a question about that particular instance, Coach. You said he had a lot of CPs, a lot of coaching points. So after you beat Arizona, did you get a text message about something you should have done different in that game in particular? Or did he just kind of go, okay, he won this one, I'm going to leave him alone this time?
After we won the national championship, I think he finally realized, well, no, I wouldn't say that, because it was about 5 years later, and he was still like, did that really happen? Like, couldn't believe that happened. Like, you know, how did you guys beat Florida? And you know, it's funny he says that, but no CP's there. I mean, he was in awe. He was he was, you know, he was ecstatic, and he was proud. I can tell you that he was very proud. But there was a lot of times that he brought it up, like, just, you know, we're watching football at my house again, Thanksgiving and whatever. There's a college game on, and he's like, "Can you believe these guys won a national championship?"
That's kind of like tough love, Coach, isn't it?
No, I mean, listen, he was a good dad, and like I said, I'm not the coach I am today if it wasn't for his influence. And he is missed. You know, at times he's a pain in the butt, like I am as a dad right now. But he is missed, and again, like I said, I wish he was around last year to see that team specifically, because that team accomplished a lot of great things.
Well,
So, Coach, in your years of working with recruiting, have you noticed like a big change in how do you recruit high school kids these days?
good question.
I wouldn't say a big change. You know, the rules have changed now in the last year, so it's kind of slowed some things down. So I'm anxious to see how that changes some things. But yes, I mean, there's no doubt. I mean, there's a change in all kinds of in kids today, and people today in college athletics, in loyalty. At the end of the day, the best coaches are you know, adaptable, and you've got to adapt. You've got to be a chameleon. You've got to be willing to adjust your thoughts, adjust, you know, the way you've done things, and you know, that's how you're going to be successful. And I know that the staff here is embracing it, and you know, this freshman class that's on our campus right now is as good as a freshman class as we've ever had. So yeah, it's a little bit different, but yet at the same time, Coastal Carolina is a special place, and I say to guys in recruiting all the time, if they come here and visit and they don't feel like they've died and gone to heaven, they're not the right guy. This is as good as place as anywhere in the entire country.
Agreed. I was thinking about, but great question, Chili. I was thinking about too some of those CPs, those coaching points, and thinking about your dad, thinking about baseball in general. But Gilly ball has always been synonymous with Coastal, right? Hey, we're going to bunt, we're going to steal, we're going to hit and run, we're going to hit behind the runner, we're going to hit for power. it seems like talking about the roster that we have now and the guys that we're going to put out there on the field, Kev, that it sounds like we're going to be able to do a lot of everything, right? Not necessarily be perfect at it, but we're going to be able to bunt and run, hit and run, bump for base hits, hit for power. I mean, almost like we're going to be able to put some 5-tool guys out there consistently, the 9 or 10, 12 guys that we rotate through the roster. Is that the expectation? Because, again, nothing more exciting to me than bunting for a base hit, followed back up with a stolen base, followed back up with a home run. I mean, no pressure, but that's one of the sexiest things in sports, man.
Well, you look at that 16 team, what was so great about that 16 team. 2010 had a great team. 2010 was really dynamic because you had two elite base stealers, Enrico and Scotty. But 16 was a team that they could beat you in so many different ways. Remillard, led our team in drag bunts that year in 2016. Remillard's in the big leagues now, and was one of our best power hitters on the 16 team. This year's team is going to be able to do a lot of that too. I don't know. I mean, we stole 91 bases last year, and we've got to recoup, I think, 65 of them with Peyton Eels and Nick Lucky. So that's one area where we got to figure out like who's going to take on those numbers. But with that being said, we return 75% of our home runs. We returned 75% of our RBIs from last year. So that's big numbers. And we averaged 9.2 runs a game last year, which was like fourth in the entire country. You average 9.2 runs a game, you're going to win a lot of games, which we did. But our goal always as an offensive unit is to be able to win versus a really good arm in a really big park on a really windy day. It doesn't matter. We've got to be able to create an offense that can win multiple ways. And I do believe that this team will do that. And it may not be because we steal 100 bases, but we're going to be able to put guys in motion. We're going to be able to short game it. We have the right guys that can short game it. I can assure you, Derek Bender's not going to bunt. Caden Bodine's not going to bunt. Zach Beach isn't going to bunt. But we still have guys that can bunt and do some little things. That we are going to base run very well. We're going to be extremely aggressive on the bases. Again, that doesn't always equate to stealing bases, but we are going to be a very good base running team. We're going to be able to go first to third. We're going to be able to score from first on doubles. It's not like we have a bunch of slugs. I mean, we have athletic guys in this lineup. We just don't have a prolific base stealer as of right now. This time last year, Peyton Eels batted 8th, and we didn't expect him to steal 44 bases, or it was something to that effect.
Yeah.
So you just never know who's going to emerge into that guy. But that's probably the one area on this offense compared to last year's offense is who's going to kind of absorb some of those stolen bases that we had last year. We were 91 for like 105 last year. The most impressive thing is the success rate. It was the highest success rate that we've ever had. And that's important when you steal bases, not just stealing bases, but what is your success rate when you do steal bases?
Yeah, great point. Great point.
Kev, how has the evolution of analytics changed this game?
Yeah.
In terms of kind of what you do, kind of how you guys prepare, your in-game strategy, all that kind of stuff. How has analytics changed things?
Listen, there's an influx of technology and analytics in our game today. You know that. There's no doubt we're utilizing it. And we'd be naive if we didn't. We've got great support here. Matt Pepin is one of our support staffs, and he oversees all of our analytics. So he brings us all the information, and absolutely we're using it to our advantage. But stats are I was told this years ago. They tell you a lot, but they don't tell you everything. Kind of like a bikini, they show you a lot, but they don't show you everything. So everything is not about just numbers.
Yours is way better than Travis's word, by the way, Coach, when it comes to that same idea. Travis has got a famous quote, but we like yours a lot better than what Travis uses.
Yeah. I think he muted himself.
so we can't hear it. So it's even better.
I said, data doesn't lie, but it can be misdeceiving. To your point about stolen bases and things like that, it's how you put guys in motion. And but yeah, to your point, analytics. Forgive me, but it's everything and nothing, right? It's all it's like anything. It's like any other tool. It's like the baseball bat in your hand. It's only as good as the practice reps you take to perfect your swing, not yours. Not Kevin's swing, not Joe's swing. It's my swing, and ultimately what you do within your hot and cold zones of your swing and what you try to do and things like that. So analytics are great, but that's where then analytics can also, you correct if I'm wrong, you can almost over depend on the analytics and not let the flow of the game dictate some of what's going on.
Yeah, I think that you're seeing that maybe the younger guys, now that I feel like I'm a little more older, the younger guys are maybe relying a little bit too heavily on the analytics. I think there's a blend.
Mm-hmm.
There's a blend there. I mean, the biggest thing for us, I would say for the position players specifically, is the technology, is your preparation for your opponents now is much greater because you do have more analytical numbers that you can look at and dissect, but then you also have more video to go along with it. So you can be a lot more prepared for what your opponents are going to try to do. You still have to execute. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, here's the 2-0 fastball. Like, you still have to square it up. You still have to execute. But I do feel like a separator for us is our preparation. And we really dive into what the opponent's strengths are, what their weaknesses are. Obviously, we're always going to steer towards our strengths. But if we can exploit an opponent because they do have X weakness, I feel like we do a very good job of that.
So, Coach, I'm going to hit you with one of the hard-hitting questions we always talk about with coaches on the show is, Travis kind of alluded to it earlier, so we're going to go ahead and get into this. We need to know, what would your walk-up song be if you were a player today?
Versus player back then. Versus player back then.
Right. Versus back then. You're right.
When I played here back then, I could be wrong, but I really think that Matt Schilling actually picked out my song. It was Iron Man by Black Sabbath. That was it back then. Today, I'll be honest with you, I'm a little bit of like a closet EDM guy. So I would have something with like some music, some DJ, I don't know, a chain smoker, chain smokers, Tiesto, somebody like that. I'd find something with a little bit of beat. I mean, I probably shouldn't divulge this yet, but Derek Bender, he's got a good vibe going on right now. If he sticks with it, he's going with Phil Collins this year.
Oh,
it's got a good. It feels good. It's a nice song. That's always been one of my favorites.
So, Coach Gilmore told us last week that his walk-up song would have been Sammy Hagar, "I Can't Drive 55." Just wanted to get your thoughts on that, Coach.
I can see that. I can see him slapping his leg to it as he's walking up.
Correct if I'm wrong, who was it? Was it Chad Oxendine? He used to sprint from the on-deck circle to the box whenever he was playing.
Him and Felty.
They used to literally sprint. Joe Chili. They used to literally, they'd be doing their warm-ups. They drop the weight, the donut, the old school donut, and literally would sprint to the batter's box and come to a complete stop and just kind of get it all laid out well and then go right in there. I mean, it was – I used to go, man, what are you doing? He goes, I don't know, I was trying to get my heart rate up a little bit, man.
Chad Felty back in the day did that too. I don't know. That's just their routine.
Yep. So we talked about it a little earlier before we came on the show. Inquiring fans want to know, when a coach gets tossed, when he gets running a game, what do you do, man? Where do you go? What do you do? Walk us through that, good, bad, or indifferent.
Well, I mean, we're fortunate now with the stadium, with the setup. We got our own locker room. I don't get thrown out as much, or I try not to get thrown out at all anymore. The umpire warned you, that's it. I did get thrown out last year. And like I said, we got a great setup. So the game's on the TV in the locker room. You get a shower, you cool off because the umpire probably just spit in your face anyway. So you get a shower and you just kind of hang out in the locker room and you're pacing back and forth while you're watching the game. And the game's behind the outside game. So then you hear the fans yelling. So you're like, what happened? And then you watch it. But you just go in the locker room and cool out a little bit. I think I got on the rower or something last year and tried to make myself feel better by burning some calories.
What happened at Radford that one time? Walk us through that story.
And then Radford, yeah, that's a good one. Radford back in the day, they didn't have anything. We didn't have anything. I got thrown out of the game. Young, dumb, immature coach. And there's nowhere to go. So you grab your bag and you're like, where do I go now? And I basically walked all the way out to left field. I sat on the park bench watching the game from deep left field and just basically wore it, for the next 2 hours.
Did you have to keep quiet while you were out there, Coach?
We didn't have cell phones, had nothing, basically just talking to myself.
Reflective Moments, right? Reflective Moments by Kevin Schnall. Could be a great book. I think Joe's got one.
Oh, have you let it sink in yet that this is Gilly's last year and things are going to be a little bit different next year? Kev, I mean, have you gotten that far ahead in your thinking? I know that and the next day is that one day at a time, one game at a time, but things are going to be different next year for a lot of people, including you. Have you thought that, you've been with Gilly for a long time as a player and as an assistant coach? Have you kind of gotten to that place in your mind yet?
I really haven't. And I guess it's kind of a good time to, Andy Reid, for instance, I think of him a lot. Andy Reid is playing in his 5th Super Bowl on Sunday. He's going for his 3rd Super Bowl title, if I'm not mistaken. Andy Reid was an assistant coach for 23 years. So, I think it's a valuable lesson where, an individual basically was focused on just improving his craft, not his title. And that was always been my mindset. Like, it's never about being a head coach. It was always about trying to be the best coach I could possibly be. And I've got 5 more months at this point. I think that's what it is, right? 5 more months at this point to be the best assistant that I can be, to put Coastal baseball, our baseball players, in the best position to be successful. And that's really where my mindset's at. There are some times where I'm making notes as if like, hey, I need to be, whatever it is. I write down some things that I need to have on my calendar or whatnot. But I really am trying to enjoy these next 5 months. Again, this will be 24 years as an assistant coach. I'm going to take in these next 5 months and try to be the best assistant I can be for Gilly. I think we should have a very successful year, which will make it even that much more special.
Yeah. I've got one thing real quick.
We'll kind of land the plane here. And I want to finish with something that's kind of maybe food for thought, but I want to get your reflections on this as well. Is on the last episode we had Coach Gilmore, and as we were kind of finishing his time on the podcast, he brought up something that I want to see what you think about. He said, end of the season, he said there'd be a lot of people willing to pay a lot of money if we brought Coach Gilmore back on the podcast with us and had what we were kind of calling the Gilly roast, where former players, yourself, assistants, that kind of thing came back and just had a free for all, a roast. He said we could make it adults only, that kind of thing. How much would you pay to roast Coach Gilmore first off? And what are your thoughts about having one of those things? And maybe can you think about
what's your story?
Good?
That's awesome.
What? I think we should we could get out like an email to all the former players and be like, okay, send that one line like, I'm gonna hang myself from the bridge, whatever. Like some of the one-liners that came out over the last 20 plus years. You could write a book on and be like, some of the stuff you can't even say today. I mean, he's kind of tenured in where it doesn't matter. He can say whatever, but there's a lot of things like, I don't think you're allowed to say that. You know? But he's had some remarkable one-liners, especially after a loss. Holy cow, some remarkable ones.
That was a question I was going to ask too, man. Was
Yeah.
what can you remember? What give us a one-liner that is somewhat PC for our listeners that you could get away with now.
He's struggling.
Man,
to think about that one.
there's too many. There's too many to bring up. But I mean, the amount of times it was, just he's going to go back and be a teacher. He's going to quit this job and be a teacher and hang himself from a bridge. I couldn't imagine some of the nights him and Kathy had after a loss. I couldn't imagine. And he brings it up, in a laughing matter now. But there's nobody I know that takes a loss the way that he takes a loss. Even today, you lose a baseball game. I mean, you're going to lose a game. And the way he takes a loss today, I mean, he's better, but it's still, he wears it pretty hard.
That means he cares, man.
No,
that's
absolutely.
awesome. You love to see that. Every now and then, I didn't get to talk to him about it, but as Chili said, we about to land a plane here. But I love when he gets a little frustrated down then. He'll take that clipboard. That clipboard must be made of titanium because there's some times. There was one time, even last year was a great year we had. I think somebody had run through a sign, but they were still safe, and he took the clipboard and slammed it down, picked it up. And even though they scored, he was not happy that they had run through a third base sign because to him, like your dad was, it's about doing it right. But
yeah. Well, he does a lot of good full arm fakes with the helmet or the hat. He'll do some full arm fakes with the helmet, the hat. And he's actually even thrown the helmet a couple of times and the hat a couple of times. But he'll full arm fake it and not throw it. Everyone kind of scatters. But no, like you said, it means it's because he cares and he's passionate about it, and our guys feed off that.
Coach, we've enjoyed this time with you, and we wish you all the best. And we would love to have you to come back. We told Coach Gilmore the same thing. End of the season, maybe you and him can come on here together and just kind of reflect on the season. Maybe go through some of the questions that we have. But we love hearing you coaches talk about your team and what y'all are doing, your processes and stuff like that. And we just appreciate you taking the time to join us here on the Strut podcast tonight.
Appreciate you having me and appreciate all you guys do for Teal Nation. Keep it rolling.
Man, appreciate it, Coach. Thank you.
Appreciate you, Coach. Good luck.
All right, guys. Take care.
So, gentlemen, I tell you what an exciting interview, and to have Coach Gilmore and now Coach Schnall come on, and Coach Schnall got a little more granular than Coach Gilmore did to talk about some of the guys, and I know that we still got to talk about a little bit about basketball, and we're going to talk about football recruitment as we wrap up the show in 54 minutes or less. But man, could you not hear the energy and the excitement? Like he was trying to contain himself a little bit, but they know. Look, I see Joe and Chilla. For those who don't, if you're watching YouTube, you can see the heads on. You can see the genuine, we got a damn good ball club, and we could do something really, really, really special this year. And that's all we're going to say. Did y'all get that sense? Because that's the sense I got.
Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, absolutely. The vibe from both these guys the last 2 weeks has been, we feel good. Those we feel good. Man, they're not going to come out necessarily in those words, but reading between the lines and being able to discern body language and, the language is coming out of their mouths, not directly, but they feel good. And they all do. And let's hope this thing works out. Let's get off to a good start here in about 9 days or so.
And I like how, both Coach Gilmore and Coach Schnall tonight both went through. And when they were talking about players, they pretty much can go through the whole roster and say, this guy's bringing this to the table, this guy's bringing that to the table, and talking about just what our guys have as a team right now. So, I feel like even though I know they know their guys, there's roughly 9 days until the first game, but at the same time, they're speaking intimately about what these guys are able to do and where the pieces are fitting. And I guess from my standpoint, if I can hear where pieces are starting to fall into place and how they're working those pieces together, it makes me feel really good as a fan going into it, going, we can expect whatever pops up, we're going to have something that we can use, somebody we can fit somewhere to do something that can help us somewhere. I feel like I feel really good about it too. Like both of y'all reading between the lines, these guys both feel really, really good about what's about to happen here this season.
It's I like what he said about, like, Chili, to your point, like, even someone like about Graham Brown, right? Like, there's someone right there, 5th-year senior, Zach Beach as well, ultimately both got drafted last year, right? But just not drafted where they were hoping to land. So they got a little chip on. I like 5th-year seniors and seniors with something to prove, right? I like guys like that because it can match the energy level of a freshman or underclassman or a new guy to the team, be it JUCO or transfer. Like, I've got to carry my weight. To his point, with regards to E-Step, I don't want to bring it up with him, but E-Step being around someone like Bodine is going to make that kid so much better to see. Like, that is a first-class All-American kid that does everything how it's supposed to be done with quality and intention. To have a freshman around someone like him, and then ultimately like Derek Bender as well, you could, Joe, you could almost hear the excitement in his voice. Like, that kid's, like he said, that kid's trajectory, it could be real fun and real special a year from now. And
absolutely,
it's I know we're gonna get to basketball, but look, baseball's up and next Friday. We open up with George Mason at 4:00 at the Baseball of the Beach tournament, and then we've got Duke on Saturday. That's a top 25 matchup right there, game 2 of the year, and that's a little bit of a revenge factor after what happened last year in the regional at home. So and then we finish up with Indiana. But again, all 3 of those teams finished. If I'm looking at this correctly, all 3 of those teams finished within the top 75. Well, Duke and Indiana finished inside the top 40 RPI, and George Mason was somewhere between 175. And so that's, look, right there's 3 programs right off the bat. But that being said, hey, where are we at with women's and men's basketball tonight?
So the ladies were just in action earlier. They had a 6:00 tip-off at the HTC Center against Texas State. They dropped that one by 352-49. Checking the box score on that game. The very competitive game, Joe. I don't know if you got any of that too, but looks like the second quarter for our ladies hurt us. We close game, like I said, throughout, but second quarter, our team only managed to score 8 points there. Everything else across the board looks relatively even, losing by 3. Overall, the ladies fall to 8-17 on the season and 2-10 in the Sun Belt. Texas State improves to 12-12 overall and 3-9 in the Sun Belt. As we were broadcasting right now, and I'm looking over my shoulder, forgive me for sounding different, Joe. I know you're watching it too. We're about 5 minutes.
I've got it right up in front of me. I got it on 65-59.
Yeah, at ULM, at Monroe. We are battling in that one. It's a little bit of a sloppy game right now at this point because we're getting kind of close to the end. And there's a big shot from ULM, 68-59 now. But the guys are battling, hanging in there against ULM on the road. Again, they are down by 9 with about 4.5 left. So that's where we are as far as hoops go at this moment.
Well, some other exciting news today, along with having Coach Schnall on, talking about baseball starting next Friday with George Mason at the Palace. It's National Signing Day, gentlemen. And let me tell you something. Joe's got a fantastic report for us. The coaching staff did an absolute wonderful, productive job. And looking at the last 5 years trends, it's one of the better classes, top to bottom, that we have put together, be it high school recruits and transfers. And the transfer bucket, if you will, counts true transfers, JUCOs as well. So Joe's going to touch on that. I don't take anything away from him. I know he's done his homework as he always does. But man, Joe, baseball excitement to now football excitement with National Signing Day.
No doubt about that, Chili. TD. I got TD and Chili here. I'm looking at a basketball game. I do. I mean, I could be misdeceived sometimes by who I'm looking at or what name I'm supposed to be talking about, right? So today we added 18 new Chanticleers to the 19 that we signed in December. And it's so fascinating now that the February signing day, it isn't what it used to be, right? I mean, with the December signing day and now with the portal, I mean, we had just looking at today, it used to be all about high school guys, right? About what was going to happen with high school guys. How are they going to, who's going to go where and what was going to do what. I think we signed in this class this afternoon, or actually today, into this afternoon, 3 maybe from high school. Today was the day you announce your portal guys, right? Your transfers that you can't really talk about because they're not on campus yet and they're not bound to the university like Coach Beck talked about today until they get here and they start taking classes. And so we added 18 to the 19 that we signed in December. And we were going to, last year the number was 50, I think 53 new Chanticleers in addition, to high school guys plus transfers. And it's going to be more than 40 this season, and we're only talking about guys that we signed, preferred walk-ons. We're going to have some of those guys as well. Coach talked about, we met many needs. We could have 2 or 3 more scholarships available post-spring. See how that works out. He guesstimated maybe 5 or thereabouts could hop into the spring portal, which will be April 15th through the 30th. And we could sign someone from there and have them from the fall. So, I mean, the work is still not done, right? I mean, we anticipate we may lose a couple, 2, 3 guys at the end of spring. One thing he talked about today, too, was there are no assistant coaching changes to the full-time staff, which is kind of interesting, right? I mean, it's kind of rare this day and age that, guys aren't really hopping around. All 10 full-time assistants will be back in those same roles as it stands today, right? I mean, as it is today, the staff stays intact, which I think is big for continuity. He talked about spring will be physical. Guys will be fighting through it. Who can do it every day? They'll be looking at those kind of guys, and they'll be stressing fundamentals and technique. And he even said that he's not even sure they're going to have a spring game on April the 13th. The spring practice dates released this week, March 12th on Tuesday, going through April 13th, which is a Saturday. So they may not even have a spring game, depending on all the work that they can get done up to that. He also talked about NIL. Of course, that's the biggest conversation right now. He estimates we lost maybe 7 potential signees due to NIL that other schools, were able to offer. We're also excited about the partnership with Altea Sports for NIL, right? I mean, Coastal announced that. That's a big thing last week, and hopefully we'll get our AD Matt Hogue on to maybe elaborate on this deal a little bit coming up in the future. I know he was really busy this week, but hopefully we'll get him on to talk about that. He and Coach Beck and Matt and some other administrators, Coach Pedersen from the women's team, they were all in Columbia, to this week to lobby South Carolina for a bill that's hopefully going to pass that's going to allow universities to have more control over NIL and maybe bring it a little bit more in-house, right? I mean, that's kind of what they're looking at. So hopefully that will help that situation, and we'll see. Offensive coordinator Travis Trickett, he got on for a little bit. He talked about Noah Kim, the quarterback from Michigan State, right? I mean, he was their number 1 target in terms of quarterbacks we felt like we could go out and get. Coach Beck, Coach Trickett picked out Noah Kim. He was their number 1 guy, and we got him. And this is a youngster who has vacationed in Myrtle Beach a bunch, so he's familiar with this area. He stayed through several coaching changes at Michigan State and just wanted something, a new start. He's a big-time competitor. I mean, he could have left at any time. Had a lot of different coaches up there, but he competed, and he wanted to come here for a fresh start. And again, you join a quarterback room with Ethan Vasco, Blake Boda, DJ Moore, the kid that's coming in from the bowl school in Florida that we signed in December. Scott Saylor, who's coming on. He talked about him, the walk-on from Carolina Forest. I mean, you have a really good quarterback room coming up, and springtime will be a time where they can evaluate what the quarterbacks can do and build on those strengths and see, what they can do, by the time fall rolls around. I mean, last season we played 3 different quarterbacks, 3 different styles, quite frankly, and we won with all 3 of those guys. Kind of a testament to what their quarterback coaching, what that room is all about. And then, Coach Dan Carroll, assistant, he's the co-defensive coordinator with Craig Nyber. Coach Nyber was with his son Gunnar, who signed today with UT Rio Grande Valley. So congratulations to Coach Nyber and his son, as he will be going on to play college football.
UTRGV.
I think that's who that is. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. That's awesome.
We added a number of defensive linemen in this class. I mean, he talked about that, having to get bulky, big guys. And we flipped a kid, too, from Louisiana who was at South Carolina State. He had committed to Louisiana, and we flipped him to us. And so that was a big one there to get. We needed bulkier guys after losing guys like Michael Mason and Kennedy Roberts, Alan Henry, Jaquan Griffin. All those guys left. I mean, so we had to bring in some guys. And so we brought in some hosses on that defensive front. We lose JT Killen in our linebacking core, but we feel good about, Wyatt Getty and Trey Brown, Spencer Kishball. Those guys are going to be big-time guys. And the McDowell kid that we signed in December, Coach Carroll likes this guy a lot. So we're going to be solid, I think, at the linebacker position. Might add a couple more defenders in the spring portal. And we felt like we needed to get bigger. coaches felt like we needed to get bigger after actually seeing Sun Belt teams, not necessarily on film, but in person. And so I think, for the second year in a row, they did that. And kind of my breakdown quickly, in the two classes, and they may move some guys around. And this is just me kind of spitballing here. What positions? We got 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs. We got one late this afternoon, right? I mean, TD, I'll let you can I'll tee you up for that one here in a second. But we signed a kid late this afternoon. 5 wide receivers, 2 tight ends, 6 offensive linemen. Most of those coming in the December class. 4 defensive linemen, like I talked about. 2 bandits, 3 linebackers, 9 defensive backs in this class.
Do you think that was an emphasis on something, Joe?
Absolutely. Right. And then again, a long snapper. And again, we have some, preferred walk-on guys still have to get some things kind of, I's dotted, T's crossed, that kind of thing. But we'll have, a pretty strong preferred walk-on class too. So great day all in all for coastal football recruiting. And, can't wait to get baseball going and then get spring practice going. Pretty much kind of, 1 month from each other. But, early March, we'll be, watching what these guys are going to have for 2024.
This is the first show we've had when we did 3 sports on it at one time. Have y'all noticed that?
4 sports. Well, technically 3, but 4 programs.
That's true. 4 programs, 3 sports. Yeah.
4 programs, 3 sports. And hey, what's that, crossover season here soon? When all the spring sports and the winter sports and some of the fall sports, if you will. What I'm excited about this class is, and let me give you all a perspective again. Data doesn't lie, but it can be misdeceiving, right? So just to get perspective on what Coach Beck and his staff did through the course of this recruitment cycle, let's go back to the Wayback Machine just 1 year ago, where in 2023, the struggle was real, right? As the young kids say now, the struggle was real. And in 2023, our overall rank was 100. Our composite rank was 114. Our transfer rank was 72, right? Composite rank is the actual kids out of high school. The transfer rank is anybody, JUCO or portal guy, right? Just, good old classic JUCO guy coming to you with a year, 2 or 3, or a portal guy with 1 year, 5th year senior, doesn't matter, right? In 2022, this is all per 247 Sports. Our overall rank was 88. It was our highest composite rank of 69, but our worst transfer rank, 177. 177, Travis. There's only about 135 programs in Division 1A. They rank all Division I schools together. They do not separate between the two, because you have the North Dakota States and the South Dakota States who can go and get a couple 3-star kids that'll stay there, right? So they rank everybody together. To give you perspective on that, our 2024 class, the one that Joe just highlighted, and one kid I'm going to talk about here in a second, our overall rank is 88. Our composite rank is 80, which is actually the second best overall composite rank we've ever had. Again, high school kids. But our transfer rank is 91. That's our best composite transfer rank, if you will, ever. So between the two, it's an 88 overall ranking. One of the kids that Joe talked about that was a late flip too, won the defensive lineman out of the portal, a kid from SC State, stayed home in South Carolina. That was a big pickup. But also Demarius Rucker, running back, 5'9", 185. We flipped him, and I'm going to list some of the schools that he had offers on the table today at signing day that he could have signed with. Obviously Coastal, but here's the rest of them. South Florida, Appalachian State, hit you late Ark State, Charlotte, UConn, FIU, FAU, Georgia Tech, Iowa State, Liberty, South Carolina, Temple, Tennessee, UAB, and Western Michigan. When we can go up against peer programs and what they consider P5 programs, and we can go get a kid like that. And mind you, if you get a chance, go 247 Sports. We got 5 kids like that have 9, 10, 12 offers from really quality group of 5 and Power 5 schools. And I'm sure there's probably a kid or 2 that we didn't get that went to somewhere else. But overall, we've got 5 or 6, 7 kids that are coming in this class that Joe touched on that could be immediate impact players next year right out the gate for us. Another one, too, just to kind of highlight a couple of them, was Julius Tate. Why is this kid important? We touched on him in the earlier season, Joe Chili. Inside offensive lineman, 6'3", 210 from Greenville, South Carolina. He held offers from Coastal, Northwestern, App State, Army, Boston College, Charlotte, Georgia State, James Madison, Liberty, Old Dominion, and UNLV. Again, going up against peer competition and winning that battle in our home state. Those are the small victories that lead to greater victories on the recruitment trail, because we get into those schools. And again, there are 5 or 6 other kids that are very, very similar to this. And to not belabor, do yourself a favor, go out there. Daniel Jones was another one. That DJ Moore is another one. I mean, that DJ Moore kid that came in, the offers he had, just to quickly refresh everybody's memory, that kid chose us over App State, Arkansas, Cincinnati, Duke, Indiana, Louisville, Memphis, Tennessee, Central Florida, South Florida, Vandy, Virginia, Va-Tech, Wake Forest, and West Virginia. This isn't like a preferred walk-on. He was legitimately offered to be a part of their team. This isn't like we're just kind of adding a 5th kid. They wanted him, right? So
yeah,
we're winning those battles. Again, to put a bow on it here. So if you got your bingo card, there you go. We're firing back up football season bingo cards. But we're winning some of those battles. So when you look at that composite score of 88 overall between composite and also the portal, you got to give Beck and the boys credit, man. They went out and found some talent. We got bigger, faster, stronger immediately with this year's high school recruitment and portal recruitment.
Go to goccusports.com too, and you'll see great bios on the December and February classes put together by Rickson Lane. Appreciate his help today to track all this stuff down. John Barber too. Najon Barber is the kid from South Carolina State, defensive lineman that we flipped in Louisiana. So it's always good to win a battle against you,
He came. I saw the GoCC Sports quick bio on him, Joe. He's coming in at 6'3", 310, according to what GoCC
That's a big boy.
Sports says.
That's a big boy.
He started at Newberry and then went to South Carolina State and dominated the MEAC there. And I anticipate that he will dominate. He will dominate for us. Looking forward to him and looking forward to this entire class.
Hey, two portal guys I want to touch on. That one was an SC State kid, but another kid coming back home from Wake Forest. He could be someone that we talk about. 5th-year senior, got 1 year, got something to prove. A.J. Williams from Bamberg, South Carolina. A little close, near and dear to my side of the family. My dad was born in Earhart, as I was, and my brother. Earhart to Bamberg's like Aner to Conway, if not closer. So he went to BE down there, and but 5'11", 200-pound. And look, this kid played at weight. This isn't somebody who's transferring in who, kind of rode the bench, played 3 or 4. He played consistently 8, 9, 10 games a year for them the last 3 or 4 years. So he's a kid that comes in, and you touched on Noah Kim and that Heston Edwards kid too. I think he's going to be something too, Joe. Chili, 6'4", 315 offensive tackle. The Heston Edwards kid that's transferring in. If I remember correctly, he's transferring in from a D2 or D3 school, if I remember correctly. Yes, he's transferring in from Texas Pyramid Basin. I'm pretty good with geography, but I have no freaking clue. I'm just going to assume it's near Pyramid,
Texas, because that's Pyramid High School. Wasn't that Friday
Pyramid
night?
High School. I think, yes. So he's coming from West, and if you can live in West Texas, you can live anywhere. Man, I'm excited. Baseball, football, sand volleyball, signed some really great girls too. We can touch on that later next episode, man. But real excited about where football and baseball are right now, and basketball's going to get there. Look, I'm not going to just bypass. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. Brighter days are ahead. Chili.
If I'm just in Carolina Forest area, and I'm looking to purchase a Legacy 14 lager. TD said we're going to get there, but where is there? Where should I go to, Joe? Where is the most annoying waitress in the whole world that I can get service from?
The most annoying waitress. My daughter, Sarah Cashin at Hanley's Pub. Sarah's getting married in a month, by the way, and we're trying to get all this planned. It is wild around this house right now. I mean, stress is at a high level. Stress is at a high level right now, trying to figure out dresses and all kind of stuff going on. But anyway, she works where you need to go to celebrate whatever it is that Coastal's involved with, whatever we got going on athletically. We're going to win, and when we do, you got to go to Hanley's Pub, CCU class of 2002, the official pub of the Strut Podcast, located in Carolina Forest. We will CCU at your local pub. Hanley's in Carolina Forest, 3873 Renee Drive, Myrtle Beach, 843-903-4904. Go see my daughter, Sarah. She'll take care of you. Hanley's Pub, the official pub of the Strut Podcast.
I'm actually planning on going to Hanley's for lunch tomorrow. I'm going to be in town, TD, for the Alumni Association meeting, and I'm going to stop at Hanley's for lunch tomorrow before that meeting. So I will be there, Strut Nation and Teal Nation.
Take a picture, buddy. Take a picture.
I'm going to do it.
Now, I tell you what, though, Chili, if you're going to Hanley's and you really need some fantastic apparel like Strut Podcast merch, I tell you where I'm going to go. I'm going to go down there and see old Bob Baldwin, class of 2011. When you think of Coastal and you think of marketing, think Coastal Marketing. Coastal Marketing is the official merchandise supporter of the Strut Podcast. Bob and his family are down there located at 475 Sandy Lane, Suite A in Surfside Beach, South Carolina, 29575. Give them a shout at 843-349-4848 or check them out on the web at www.coastalmarketinggraphics.com. Again, when you think Coastal and you think marketing, think Coastal Marketing.
If I know Joe Cashin, I know Joe Cashin's probably had a putting green installed in his backyard in anticipation of the Strut Pub because he can't stand to lose, and he's actually been winning lately. But Joe, don't overdo it. You've got bad knees. You've got bad other things, eyesight. Go see Dr. David Turner, class of 97 of Impact Chiropractic. He's been practicing in Conway for 20 years. He believes in a proactive, wellness-based approach to achieving optimal health and function for the entire family. Joe, at Impact Chiropractic, they work hard to grow healthy kids rather than fix damaged adults. You just missed that cutoff, Joe. 210 Singleton Ridge Road in Conway, impactchiro.com. You can call them, TD, 843-347-9103.
Actually, you know what, Chili? I walked 9 holes the other day at Camden Country Club, and from the 3-2s, I shot a legit 40, which is not bad for me. On a bad knee. Swung it well, hit it well. So my knees are getting better all the time. Can't wait for that strut putt.
You know, I tell you what,
TD's age.
You know what, though? I tell you what, the prettiest 18 holes I have ever walked in my life in Myrtle Beach has been the Captain Hook Adventure Golf.
That's the best.
Only rivaled by Jungle Safari, Shipwreck Island, and Jurassic Golf. But I tell you what, though, you know, we're very grateful that the folks over at Myrtle Beach Family Golf are a sponsor of the Strut Podcast. Again, operated and managed by Coastal Alumni, golf fun for everyone. I mentioned those 4 mini golf facilities, which are Captain Hook's Adventure Golf, Jungle Safari, Jurassic Golf, Shipwreck Island Adventure Golf, where you can find Joe's ball in the water over there, and Cane Pass Driving Range, where Chili took out a golf cart going by.
It's true.
Hey, if you want to, anywhere along Ocean Boulevard and 17s where you're going to find these fantastic facilities, again, get to one ahead of the Strut Putt because there'll be scars and scrapes on the turf from Joe and Chili trying to figure out their game.
Didi, if you think you're so good at strut putt golf or whatever, what you should call it Bob Baldwin, because I know you're thinking of Coastal and your marketing needs because you want to get how good you are at miniature golf. Joe, I feel like if we called Mrs. Danley, I think she may tell us a different story. However, think Coastal Marketing when you go see Bob Baldwin at Coastal Marketing because they are the official merchandise supporter of the Strut Podcast, 475 Sandy Lane, Suite A, Surfside 29575. TD, you can call them and have like TD is better at miniature golf than everybody else.
The Strut Putt hats, the Toss 48 hats, but we're going to come up with a baseball hat. Bob actually called me. He listened to the podcast today and said, man, we got to come up with a baseball hat for the podcast for this spring. So I'm circling up this. So we got a baseball hat. We're going to work on a baseball hat. We're going to work on a Toss 48 hat and then a Strut Putt hat or wristbands or something. I don't know what we're going to come up with. But I'll tell you what, though. You know who's not far from Coastal Marketing? Our man, Dan Sign, right there. He's class 2001.
Bob Baldwin, TD, you got to call him, which I'm sure you did, at 843-349-4848. Or maybe you went to his website, coastalmarketinggraphics.com. Forgive me, I was finishing the plug.
Well, I'd already plugged him once, but that's okay. We'll plug him twice.
Did we? Clearly, I was not paying attention.
Hey, that's all right, though.
This basketball game is very close right now.
But I tell you who's paying attention, especially to the marketing needs and real estate needs of all of Coastal alumni, Teal Nation and Strut Nation, and that's Dan Sign. Again, CCU class 2001. Dan Sign at Dunes Realty, real estate done right, down there at 128 Atlantic Avenue in Merle's Inlet. You can go to dansignrealty.com or give him a call at 889-9312.
Guys, we are at just a few seconds left in the basketball game. Coastal's at the line. Joe, I think it was 75-70 when I saw it last. Is that what you got?
Yes.
76-71, under 30 seconds left.
Yeah. It'll be
Well,
tough.
who was that? What was the score?
Monroe is leading by 5 with about 23 seconds left.
Yeah, and they're going to the line too. Double bonus time.
Hey, keep fighting, boys. Keep fighting.
Fight the good fight, shots. Let's go
Better
ahead and hit
days
the
ahead.
shots up. What?
So better days ahead. Time for a shots
Better
up.
That's
Time
right.
for
Time for
shots up.
shots up. Let's call it a
Baseball
show.
next week. God bless America.